What's up, everyone? Thursday night. Welcome to Dogs Down South. Coming to you live from the, you don't say this much, but the cool city of Palm Harbor, Florida, near Tampa. We are down into the 50s tonight, low 60s, maybe 50s. Anything below 70 in Florida is we get everything out, all snow gear, things of that nature. So what's up, Adam? How are you? I got Adam Fisher here with me tonight. What's up, Fish?
What's up, man? What's going on?
What's going on, man? Here to talk a little football, a little Dogs Down South. Obviously, the hot topic. I went live last night pretty organically to talk about the discussion of Nick Saban retiring. That's the big convo, man. Is Nick Saban is retiring at Alabama. Some people say, it was coming. We can talk about it. We can talk about what we think. What we think happened. A lot of opinions out there, things of that nature. I got the comments up. Kind of wait for some people to join tonight. But what do you think, Fish? Like, opening just kind of comments about this whole thing with Nick Saban. Obviously surreal, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. I mean, it's hard to believe. I was shocked. I was at work when I got the alert on my phone, and I had to stop and send a few text messages and make a few phone calls to make sure that I wasn't, just seeing things, or it wasn't some sort of, stunt or some fake, notification or whatever.
Right.
Because,
Dude, when you texted me, I literally texted you, man, to be like, hey, man, I want to go live sometime soon. And you put it in the text, and I was like, dude, that would be cool to go live about. And then you were like, it's true. And I went, of course, you go to social media. And then you look past the first one, you look past the second one, you look past the third one, then you're looking for just a reputable source. And then I, of course, saw ESPN and things of that nature. So it's true, man. Saw an interview today, about it. Apparently, of course, Reese Davis and ESPN. I'm almost wondering if that was taped before this announcement. Pretty weird.
I don't know.
What
They
do you
had
think,
it ready
man?
to go.
Maybe, man. Maybe. I know that there's some. Well, let's talk about that one first. So obviously, Reese Davis talked a little bit to Nick Saban and just asked, why now? Why this time? What like why now? And a lot of things that Saban talked about is you never as a coach really think about when it's not gonna when it's gonna end. You don't think of it like that. You kind of more think of when's a good time. What does it look like? You ask yourself some questions. A lot of things he said is that this past year, this past year where I think everybody agrees this has been one of those teams this year for Alabama that I think could possibly go down in the history of one of the better teams that he's brought from what it possibly could have been at the beginning of the year to how they ended. Would you agree? I mean, I know there's a lot of teams that we can go back. We're probably not thinking of right now, coaching job wise, but like I don't think the talent was different, but this team was a little bit different this year. And he specifically said this team was definitely mentally and physically harder on him this year.
Yeah, it was. He said he could have done a better job if he was younger.
Yeah.
It definitely took a lot out of him. I mean, and he didn't even know he was going to retire until he said, like, what, yesterday he was even like made some morning like recruiting calls or something like that, and then just before like 3 o'clock, I guess 3:30, 4 o'clock, whenever they broke it, that's when he decided. And he was unsure about it. He didn't even know.
Yeah. I think when you look at this whole scenario, I think he said some key things like it was getting to where it was hard on him to tell recruits the truth. They would ask, how long are you going to be here? And he's like, I mean, and the cool thing about NIL right now, you can throw it right back at some of these recruits. It's like, well, how long are you going to be here?
How long are you going to be here? Yeah.
Right? Yep. So he did, of course. And, but I think the biggest thing with Saban is you look at 72 years old, you look at, I think we've all seen, and he's hinted to it. He's like the dichotomy of college football right now and how the changes are happening. The things are all moving so fast paced. It's not just,
it's not the same.
dead period where you're like, hey, I can breathe a little bit. I can't talk
Yeah.
to a recruit. I can't do this. I can't do that. So what do? It's like college football was saying, you got to rest. You got to relax. I don't think
Hmm.
the last 3 or 4 years has been good to Nick Saban in that area because I just feel like his mind and his body and everything is just going.
Yeah. It's definitely a younger man's game now. Like, and
Yeah,
he knows. I mean, it's completely different than it was 20 years ago.
yeah,
With all the NIL and transfer portal and all that stuff. I mean, it's just exhausting. Can you imagine? You know, and being
yeah.
being a good recruiter, being having a top class every year. How much that's got to take out of him too. And then just having to deal with everything else. I mean, he's old
Yeah,
school, and it's definitely changing fast. And he's been open about how he doesn't like NIL and all that, and he just probably tired of it. You know.
yeah. I don't think anybody does. I think that it's crazy that like the college football, the coaches, it just feels like this was a big force on them. It was like one of those things where it's like this is where the NCAA goes. This is the direction we got to go. Um,
Yeah.
but there was really no college football coaches that were like, well, do I have a say? And then conferences didn't
Mhm.
have a say. I
No.
mean, conferences are like, all right, well, we got to do what we got to do. And then it was like with this 12-team playoff, was it really the 12-team playoff that had these conferences all merging? I have a feeling it was like a first step in the right direction for some of these smaller schools. I say smaller,
Yeah.
lower budget schools to be able to get in arenas to recruit because you
Hmm.
can't say. I mean, I just don't know, man. You're not getting. It's hard to fight. I don't know. When's the last time you've seen, the I don't know, man. The Midwest Athletic Conference, man, signing the top 5-star recruit in the nation. Like it ain't happening, right? So
No.
they have to get the playing field kind of together. What's up, John Sam? Hey, man. Don't know who you are, but welcome, man. Welcome to Dogs Down South. Talks with Eric Bieniemy have intensified quickly, and Saban's close relationship with Bieniemy has led Bama donors to make a significant push for him to receive the nod to replace Saban. Eric Bieniemy, man. Eric Bieniemy. I've heard more about Eric Bieniemy from the Falcons than I have Alabama, but I wouldn't vote that down. We can kind of move in that direction. We were going to talk a little bit about who we think that is. We were just coming off the topic of just Saban. The one thing I will close in that first part in saying is that Miss Terry and Nick both have said it has nothing to do with health. If anything, the health part is just keeping up. I mean, there's a
Hmm.
there's an interview at the SEC championship that has been caught on tape with Saban and Kirby at the 50-yard line, and they caught Kirby saying basically things like, when he says, I'm too old for this stuff, him saying, well, nah, man, he said you're not too old, and then he says something to the means of you've been a hell of a coach. He said you mean a hell of a lot to me, and it just seems like that a lot of the coaches that are close to Saban kind of knew this was the year. Maybe he had said it. Those are his golfing buddies as well. When they get a chance to golf, who has a chance to golf anymore as a NCAA coach? If you do, then your team's probably not that great, right?
Yeah.
I
No
think
kidding.
Kirby. I think Kirby could probably say he probably wants to get out about 20 times more, but he's only out probably able to get out about 2 times.
Hmm.
But
Yep.
um, but yeah. So I mean, I think this is Saban doing it on his own terms. But now the big question is of course, is like who do we think this is? And I know, I broke it last night live, uh, over over just live, and I really think the sources that are coming out and the things that are being talked about are some of the same names. I have not heard about Eric Bieniemy, but that's a new name. Let's talk a little bit about who we have heard. So that's an interesting topic. Like we can talk about it. I've heard Eric Bieniemy to the Falcons. I've
Hmm.
also heard the names of Dabo Sweeney, but I've also seen videos. It's almost like you remember the Tennessee. You remember when Tennessee was looking to hire a coach, and I think who was the guy who's at Rutgers now, man? Shiano, man. Remember Shiano? Greg Shiano?
Hmm.
Remember
Yeah.
when Tennessee was making the videos and students were over on campus, they were yelling, you know, we don't want Shiano and things of that nature. There's videos flying around right now of we don't want Dabo everywhere. So Dabo Sweeney is an interesting topic here, even though he will come up numerous times. What do you think about Dabo? Like, you think it's a good chance, small chance?
No
What do you think, Fish?
chance.
No chance.
No chance.
Do you think it's because of the struggles of what he's done the last few years in NIL at Clemson? Or do you think it's
I don't.
more like the coach is just the coaching in general? You think it's something that can't follow a Nick Saban?
I think if I was an established head coach at a Power Five school, and I had, if I was a hot coach, a good, like a top 10, top 15 coach, I wouldn't want to go follow Nick Saban and potentially not live up to the, impossible standard that's going to be there, for the guy who follows him. Because anything less than a natty for the next at least probably 2 or 3 years is going to be, look frowned upon.
So you'd have to think, I mean, everybody says this is a name we know, right? I mean,
Hmm.
everybody thinks so. My personal pool, and I think I was in a little group chat with you, Travis King, that was on there with me, and the names that were flying around, and you guys said, I mean, we mentioned Dabo. I think 2-3 years ago, Dabo was a valid name. Why? Because he was winning. He had just come off winning a title. He
Hmm.
was Clemson was a very serious contender every year, and the ACC conference was a little bit better than it was the last few years as well. But I think we entered names like Dan Lanning. Now, Dan Lanning's interesting because I will tell you, without any of Rumorville, I would say that if I had to pick out of any of these coaches, and let's go through them real quick. I won't stop. So I think Dan Lanning has a great shot. I think um, I think Dabo has a great shot. I think the hot name out there too is Kalen DeBoer from Washington. He's getting
Hmm.
some looks. I've heard Mike Norvell. Why? Because Norvell's buyout is the lowest of all the coaches in that crew. I think it's around $4 million, but I don't know if Norvell's a great fit. We can talk about that. I think Sarkeesian is an incredible thought. I think Lane Kiffin is an incredible thought. I've heard James Franklin. I don't know what the fascination is with James Franklin. Like, talk to me about that, man, because I remember Franklin at Vanderbilt, and yeah, he got Georgia. He got Georgia one year. I mean, I mean, everybody finds and Blonde Squirrels finds a nut every once in a while. I mean, Will
Yeah.
Muschamp found one at South Carolina too. So, talk to me about James Franklin though. Out of all that group, why is he getting so much like attention when it comes to big college coaches and positions? I mean, what has he done? What has he
Nothing.
done to put his name in there?
He's the king of the middle of the road of the Big Ten. I mean, he's the top tier right there below Michigan and Ohio State. The middle ground
Yeah,
starts right there, and I'd say he's there and he maintains it, but that's it. He can't get over the hump. He obviously can't beat Michigan and Ohio State. Not at the
right.
same not at the same year. Maybe every
Yeah,
once in a while, but no, I mean
I've
he
heard
hasn't really
I've heard
proven
he's
anything.
Yeah, no, I agree. I heard he's a great motivator. I haven't really.
Hmm.
I mean, I agree with you. Middle of the road. I mean, maybe he's the safe candidate to go. If everybody's just tied down to where they're at, he's a guy that's like, okay, Penn State. I don't know, man. Like, I just feel like he's. I mean, okay, maybe I say this. He's won it, so I can't call him the Dabo Sweeney of the Big Ten, but maybe I could call him like maybe I could call him like maybe he's like the kind of like the Josh Heupel of the past few years too. Like
Hmm.
had a great team, had a
Hmm.
lot of talent, which I would agree that Tennessee has a better chance to recruit than Penn State. So that's one nod I will give you. Penn State doesn't get the 5-star and 4-star talent that the SEC does. So I think he
Yeah.
does a lot with a little. But
Hmm.
I always wonder why James Franklin's name comes up. But and as far as the NFL, like I've heard Pete Carroll. This is my second time hearing Eric Bieniemy. Um, I've
That'd
heard
be
I've heard
huge.
Pete, Eric Bieniemy. I've heard Vrabel. Although Vrabel, I heard the news today that Vrabel's pretty much a lock for the Patriots. So Vrabel might be out as far as NFL ranks, and I really don't know. I mean, the the way out of left field would be like Harbaugh. Is Harbaugh like it Alabama material? I'm starting some mess now, probably right.
There's
And
no
then like
way
I
he's
think,
coming to the SEC.
yeah, I don't think so
I
either,
don't think
man.
so. Not that he doesn't want to. I just don't think. I don't. I just don't think that that's what's going to happen. That'd be nuts.
I also don't think that Alabama will get anywhere near sign stealers. I mean, they're probably that just probably throws
Yeah.
people off a little bit. It's not
No.
that whether he's guilty or innocent of it, which I think we've proven more that there's some sort of guilt in it.
Yeah.
But whether it's not, it's still following him right now. I mean, it is what it is. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
but out of all those, and I think you mentioned this. I think you mentioned prime time. Like I mentioned prime time today, like around a little table of some guys who watch college and NFL, and somebody said it feels like that Dion's on like this reality show.
Huh.
Like it's not even like he's a college football coach. It's like he's more like it's him, it's Colorado, and he's like got this reality show going. Why do you
Yeah.
think? Because you mentioned this name. Why do you think Dion would be a candidate for Alabama?
A big name to follow a big name. I don't, I don't know.
You
He's
think that
just,
you think
I mean,
he's
because
missing players, or you think Dion's missing players, or do you think he's really ready for this level?
I don't know. I think I don't know. I think he's more of a motivator than anything. I don't know. Is he a defensive coach? Is he an offensive coach? What does he do? How much input does he have? I think he's the kind of guy who can motivate, but he would need great coordinators, to have a great
Yeah,
team. You know what I mean? Because I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. What does he does? Is he a defensive minded guy, an offensive minded guy? Does he
I
call
think
plays? What does he do
I think
other
I
than
think that's
motivate extremely well? You know what I mean?
I think that's a great question, man. Because I agree. I think he is a centerpiece of like I think they bring in a big name at Colorado. They sell tickets. I mean, they sold the stadium out in Colorado. I mean, they have a better chance of not selling it out this year because there might be some people that are not bought in. They're like, all right, the hype's over. What did we do with what we had? But like,
Hmm.
I do agree with that. Like, it's like he's a good mentor type, role model type guy. I think he makes the most of
Definitely.
making young boys that think they're men into men.
Hmm.
Um, so it's like, but I don't really know what he does. I don't know what his tail on. Like when you look at and you look and go, well, you know, Deion Sanders wins the national championship. Like, what does he like? What do you say behind it? Like when you say Nick Saban, you look and you go, Nick Saban and Alabama wins the national championship. You look at his defensive mindedness. You look at he always has great defenses. He
Hmm.
always has a very well um, how should I say this? A disciplined team for the most part.
Hmm.
He's going to
Yep.
have quality coaches around them. He's always
Yep.
going to play players, the best players, and not just names.
Hmm.
It's not a freak show. It's just
Yeah.
not. And when you look at let's go out of the SEC. I say when we look at like a Jim Harbaugh, right? I think Jim
Hmm.
Harbaugh has an NFL approach. You can tell that with Michigan. It did not take on at first because it's really hard because NFL practices and how they're structured and things of that nature are very laid back. They're very
Hmm.
laid back. They're not very focused because you're dealing with people that make millions of dollars. Well, now you're dealing with college football players that make millions of dollars, but
Yeah.
it takes a little bit for that DNA to set in. Everybody is very dependent on each person doing their job, but you're talking about that DNA having to be structured into borderline, less than grown-ups. These are still
Hmm.
kids learning their way around, and so that approach. But where does like when you say Dion, like what would he be known for other than building a good? I mean, would I love to be a fly on the wall with these 4 to 5 assistants that have left this program this year and go, why are you leaving the program? You know?
Yeah. I mean, a lot's got to be on their plate. I mean, because like I said, I don't know. Like Dion doesn't hold a clipboard. He doesn't, I just I don't know what he does, and that doesn't
Yeah.
mean he's not good at he's not a good coach by any
Right.
means. I don't know what he does. Like
I've
it's
seen
never
him.
been talked about or hyped or
Uh-huh.
anything.
I've seen
Like,
him.
oh my God,
I've seen him. Go ahead. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, go ahead. You're good. Go.
No, I'm just I'm agreeing with you, man. I mean, I've seen him. Let's
Yeah.
talk about what we've seen him do. I've seen him on Netflix. Is it Netflix? HBO Max?
Hmm.
He's got a little thing out there. I've seen him driving a golf cart, man, a swagged out golf cart. Seen that much.
Yep. Big time.
I've seen his motivational speeches. They're powerful. I think
Yeah.
I love how he is doing things with the mentality of making people men. I also like the fact that he can take football and relate it to real life. because
Hmm.
that's a common factor in, um, when you put grades and why you're at school and what you want to get out of the program, and transferring it to this will end, whether it's
Hmm.
NFL career or college career, it will end. And are you ready to
Yeah.
take on the world after that? Because
Yeah.
you're not going to always be in this kind of likelihood of other players and other people that can support you. So can you do this on your own?
Yeah.
But I
Slim
don't know if
chance
I
that they
have.
make it to the NFL.
Go ahead. Yeah. What were you saying?
I was saying there's a slim chance that a lot of these kids make it to the NFL. So yeah, they
Mhm,
need to be ready for life after football.
mhm. Yeah, I agree. So I think we hit the nail on the head. I think he will be looked at as a guy who really makes he brings the whole puzzle together. He's a great
Yeah.
motivator, great mentor. I think he knows football, and
Hmm.
he can
Oh,
put the
definitely.
pieces together to make it happen. But now, when you
Hmm.
look at like real candidates, I heard today Dan Lanning has made it public and let Oregon know, and he's put it out on social media. He's actually used it as a recruiting pitch that
Oh
he
yeah.
will not be
Yeah.
leaving Oregon.
No.
That he is with Oregon, and what does that say? What does that say for Oregon? If you don't leave for Alabama, does that mean you're an Oregon guy for life?
Oregon's a good job. You
It
talk
is.
about unlimited funding for NIL. All these kids can work for Nike. You know what I mean? Like they because they got
How'd you like
Nike
to have a
money.
college
They
football
got that
job at
Phil
Nike?
Knight money.
Right. How'd
Man,
you like to
dude's
have a
loaded.
side job at Nike as a football? What's my off season job? Do I
No
work for Nike?
kidding. Yeah, no kidding, dude. Sign me up. I'm good. Let's go.
But that's got to mean like he's a lifer though. Like I'm obviously he's
Yeah,
got to win. It
it's a
gets weird
that's
for
a
that.
great school. That's a great place to coach, I think. They got a good fan base, big, good following, good tradition. That's a good school. That's definitely like a top 10 job out there, I think.
Do you think it's easier? Do you think it's easier to recruit at Alabama than Oregon though? Now, I
Right
mean,
now,
hey, I was just saying now, but like,
yeah.
where does this play in? I mean, this dude, I mean, we'll get to this in a minute, but this opens up so many doors. Like,
Mhm.
d- are we going to see Alabama's recruiting like fist really be as mean as it's been in the past 10 years
Don't
because
know.
Nick Saban is not the head football coach there anymore? So is
Somebody's got to be
Oregon?
able to sell the mystique.
Yeah, and it's gonna be. This is huge. This is huge. But also Eugene, Oregon. I actually had the. I don't know if it's the privilege, but I went through Eugene. So went from a flight from got rerouted. There was a name storm coming from Hawaii into San Francisco. Rerouted up from San Francisco up to Eugene, Oregon. The only thing I did was leave the airport. Um, take at that time a cab. Yeah, I imagine cabs, man, not Ubers. Take a cab to a hotel, got some
Yeah.
sleep because we had basically spent half the night in the hotel. And so all I
Hmm.
remember, man, is millions, it seemed like, of trees, millions of trees, and like prestigious houses and prestigious, like it was not, it just felt like I was in this prestigious, like country movie. It was weird. It's
Yeah.
a really nice place.
Yeah.
A lot of people say the weather's not for everybody, but other than Nike, like if Nike's not in up there, if Phil Knight's not the guy and Nike's not there, what's keeping Dan Lanning in Oregon? Does
Don't
he
know.
really think he can live there? Does he really think I can retire here? Like Oregon can be an Alabama, because that's what he's saying, right? That's what
Yeah.
he's saying. He's saying Oregon can be in Alabama, and I can do what Nick Saban did at Oregon. That's powerful,
Yeah.
man.
I'm also telling you, man, nobody really, if you're established somewhere else, you don't want to go potentially ruin what you've got going
Mm-hmm.
on by failing at Alabama.
That's a good
Like
point.
I want somebody to go in after Saban, let them do their time, do whatever's going to happen, either be great or, fall on their face, and then jump in after that and save the day. If I'm
Yeah.
an established coach, like a Sarkeesian or a Kiffin or Dabo, somebody like that who's established, even the Washington coach, what's his name? The
Kalen DeBoer. Kalen
Yeah,
DeBoer.
even him, because he's got something happening in Washington. I think it's going to be
It,
more of like a middle tier, maybe somebody who's on the saving coaching tree, but just not like a huge name like Brent Key from Georgia Tech. He coached at Bama recently. He was the offensive line coach there for 3 years.
Right.
And he's a up and comer, but he's not a huge name right now, So I think that would be a good grab, you know, in my opinion.
Right. Right. When you look at it too, and here's another thing, like you can also think about this, like, I mean, like here's my thing, man. Like I get what you're saying, but it's Alabama.
Yeah.
Like it's Alabama, man. It's like so here's where the other names come in. I personally don't know why because I'm calling it like I see it, but I don't think Lanning will take the job but I think he should. I think he should, man. I'm just telling you. I think he
Yeah.
should because he is the closest thing to Nick Saban, young Nick Saban. I mean, he's the closest thing. Look at what is so when you look at what we just said about Nick Saban, his characteristics of if Nick Saban wins the national championship, how do you describe the coach he is and why they won? If you look at Dan Lanning, you would describe him the same way. Dan Lanning comes from Alabama. Not the He didn't really have that long drawn out career like Kirby did at Alabama. He
Not
was a
many
grad
people did.
assistant. Right.
Yeah.
He was a grad assistant. But he was more Kirby's guy than
Hmm.
anybody. But he
Yeah.
comes to Alabama with a defensive mindset.
Hmm.
He knows how to find people. Obviously, with Kendall Briles and everything going on with that offense ticking up in Oregon,
Yeah.
and the coaching staff he has around him, he's brought a defense to Oregon. So he's proven that he can have a great offense. He has a defensive mind, and but is this not Nick Saban? Nick Saban has proven time and time again he can get the right person to come in, and look at Sark, look at the guy at Maryland, Mike Locksley, look at O'Brien, look at the offenses that Alabama's had with the
Hmm.
background of defense. It's Dan Lanning is a young replica of Nick Saban. So he's the
Yeah.
best fit, I think. But
That's the formula.
I don't know if he's leaving Oregon. Now we got to talk though who we actually think. I mean, unless I'll keep him in there if you think. Do you think Dan Lanning's still coming to Alabama, or you think he's going to stay at Oregon?
I think he's going to stay put.
I agree. I
But
think
I
he's at
think we'll
Oregon.
know
I don't know
within the
why.
next 48 hours.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
and
it's
I've
going to
heard
be
this.
really a quick turnaround.
The only reason I've heard that it might not be a name that's thrown out there. Do you know who Jimmy Sexton is?
Yes.
So apparently, he's basically 90% of these guys' agents. So
Yep.
he's got Dabo, he's got Ryan Day, he's got who am I missing? He's got Lanning, he has Lane, he has James
Yeah.
Frank. So he has all these guys. So he says Dabo. I think he's gonna hold them up as long as he can to get these guys the raises that they need
Hmm.
and he's going to fight that hold with Alabama. It's going to be a little bit of a tug of war here because really, those coaches don't have any saying unless they're coming going, hey, I've had the call. I want to be at Alabama. Let's make this quick. Let's make it right. And then I think, but still, Sexton has to hold on to all these other things because obviously, like, I mean, you don't think that James Franklin wants a raise because his name was brought up? Yeah, it'll happen. Penn State's going to give
Yeah.
James Franklin more money. And as we look at
Yeah.
it right now, the top paid coach in college football is also leaving, and it's a pretty good spread. Nick Saban
Does
is,
that does that
go
mean
ahead.
Kirby's the highest paid coach right now?
No, that's Dabo. Dabo will be next
Oh, Dabo. That's right. That's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
by uh, by $200,000.
Gotcha.
Dabo Sweeney made 10.9 in 2023. Kirby made 10.7. Nick Saban made 11.4
Yeah.
a year, obviously.
Awesome.
Coach's thing out there. Another guy's name that's out there, but I don't know if this can happen. I don't know if anything can get near this because of just even though there's been talk of his name being cleared, but Mel Tucker's name's out there as well. That man
Yeah.
made he made $10 million last year. I mean,
Yeah,
technically
because
he's not been.
he turned Michigan State into a juggernaut, didn't he?
I don't know about that.
I'm just saying.
I think
I'm just saying.
I don't think best thing Mel Tucker could have done was stay at Georgia.
Yeah. Oh
No
yeah.
offense.
Definitely.
That's the best thing he
No.
could have done.
Yeah.
Lincoln Riley, $10 million. Brian Kelly, Here's another name that's out there. Would Alabama do this? Would Alabama do this? Jimbo Fisher?
I would hire him as some sort of recruiting person because that makes ice to an Eskimo.
Norvell's down here, man. Billy Napier's out. He can't get his crap together at Florida. Um, here's another interesting name, and I did hear this. I heard this, but it was in passing, and I forgot about it. Here's an interesting name: Kyle Whittingham at Utah. Very interesting guy. Always
Mm-hmm.
done a little. I'm sorry, a lot with a little. Um, Utah is obviously going. Is Utah going ACC or Big Ten? I think it's Big Ten.
I think.
I don't know.
Ooh,
I mean, we talked about the conferences, but I ain't memorized them yet, man. But I think that would be
no,
interesting. I've also heard Mike Gundy as a possibility, but I don't know, man. Mike Gundy's like, we want to bring
I
the
think.
power mullet to
I
Alabama.
think. I think he's a OK State lifer.
Yeah, they won't. Ain't
I think
nobody
he
trying to do
is.
without Mike Gundy, man.
Mm-mm.
So real names. So let's talk Lane Kiffin. The only reason I would say Lane Kiffin would turn this job down is because there's money at Ole Miss, and he has done a tremendous job in the portal. He is number
Mm-hmm.
one as far as portal goes. The names he's brought in for next year, it's almost like I think he's sitting at home right now going, "Am I really having to make this decision? I've probably put the best team together that Ole Miss might have ever seen on paper, talent wise.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
now I have the decision whether to leave it and go. But here's the thing: you're not leaving it and going anywhere other than, I mean, dude, you're coming into 4 and 5 star recruits, man. Like you're not. I mean, I get it, but this Lane, all right, Lane Kiffin, man, let's talk it. What do you think? You think he's a good? You think he's a real? You think he's real, or you think he's fake? In terms of if he would come to
I,
Alabama,
I don't think so, man. I don't think who wants to follow Nick Saban? Seriously.
but it's Alabama.
that that's what I'm hung up on. I know, but still, like, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think he would do good there. I think he'd do very good. He's a good coach, but I don't know. I don't think so.
So let's do it right now. Dabo Sweeney, is he in the top two, real or fake? Dabo Sweeney, is he top two for Alabama?
I'll
Who are
say
we saying
real
they're picking from?
because I'll say real because he's an alum, but he may have too much character to abandon Clemson. Because he's telling people to buy real estate or whatever he said.
Buy you
So
some
I
real
don't know.
estate in Tuscaloosa. Come
Yeah,
on now.
yeah. Let's go.
I'm gonna make a comment, but I'm gonna hold that comment right there. I'm not gonna say it. Uh Ryan Day, man, real or fake? I've heard
Fake.
Ryan Day in there. Fake. Yeah. He hate, man. People hate. I don't know, man. There's a lot of people hating Ryan Day in Ohio State, man, because they say he's got another team coming around. Will Howard and a lot of things. We won't go into that. Uh Jimbo Fisher, real or fake?
Fake.
Fake. Lane Kiffin, real or fake? You think he's top two? Who are they picking from, man? That's who we're trying to get. Who are they going to pick from?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
I think
Maybe
Lane
not this
Kiffin.
year. Maybe next year. Maybe
I
after the
think
first guy.
I think Lane Kiffin's real. And let me tell you
Think so.
why. Let me tell you why, man. The only reason I think that Lane Kiffin ever left Alabama was because of Nick. I think Nick rode him hard, dude.
Hmm.
Like he was making and money. I mean, money's always a thing, but like
Yeah.
Lane had been a head football coach, and let's just be honest, man. Between USC and Tennessee, like his head coaching, he definitely has made a better name for himself at Ole Miss than he did at USC and Tennessee. I think
No,
he
he's
was
climbing
much
back in. He's a top tier guy now.
right. I think he's much more mature now. I think he's not as mouthy. He kind of reminds me of he used to be like the Donald Trump of
Hmm.
like interviews, right? It was like, what's he gonna say? It's that
Yeah.
type things. And
He still
so
is. He's hilarious.
yeah, he's hilarious, dude. But I think now he knows what is at stake. I think a lot of his, per se, what you can count on with him is he's trying to be taken seriously, and he
Yeah.
wasn't for a while. He was more
Yeah.
bulletin board material as far as like, look what, like you just said, look what he said.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's real, man. I'm going to call him as a top 2 for me because it's got to be a
Okay.
top 2, bro. It's got to be a top 2, right?
It has to be by now. You
Dan
would think.
Dan Lanning, real or fake?
Hey, just because he just went up to the trouble to publicly say, and that would make him look really bad if he just went and said that, made that promise to those guys, and then a day later signed some enormous contract. And plus, what's his buyout in Oregon anyway?
The cheapest buyout is Norvell at $4 million, so it's got to be higher than that. Yeah. His buyout is $28 million.
Jeez.
Yeah, $28 million is what I'm seeing. Cheapest one is Norvell. Let's
Yeah,
let's
boy.
throw that one. Is Norvell real or is he fake?
I don't know. The way the ACC's looking and all the drama that Florida State would have to go to just to leave to even have the possibility of joining another conference. I don't know. Maybe.
$500 million for Florida State to leave the ACC. Tell me that I'm shackling you to a chair without telling me I'm shackling you to a chair and not letting you leave.
Yeah, no kidding. It's
And
like
especially
Barry
since the fact
Sanders
that
and
Willie
Detroit
Taggart
all over
still,
again.
yeah, especially since the fact that Willie Taggart is still drawing a salary and Jimbo is still drawing a salary. Well, maybe Joe's drawing a salary and maybe Jameis Winston's still drawing a salary at least.
Crab
Yeah,
legs. That's
crab
right.
legs for life, man.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
there's still like a quota for crab legs coming out of FSU's athletic fund.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
That's hilarious.
so NFL names like Bieniemy, is that a real name? Like I don't
I
know. I
think
haven't
so.
heard. Really?
I think so. I think he's in my top two.
Ooh, okay.
I've got
Top 10.
him and Brent Key from Georgia Tech. That's my top two.
Wow. I think, dude, you're one of those guys that's like 100 to 1 type bet. I dig that, man. I dig
Go
that,
big
but
or
I
go home.
can't. So you're going full out with who would follow Nick Saban? Who would want
Yeah.
to, right?
I don't think anybody wants to right now. Who wants to follow the GOAT?
So
Lane
here's my
Kiffin
thing.
might because he's full of himself. He thinks he's all that in a bag of chips. He might want to do that. He might be brave enough to take that on. But man, I don't think many people are. I mean, it sounds good. All these names are attractive. They sound great because they're just the top tier guys in the profession at the moment. It could
Mm-hmm.
be anybody.
Yeah.
The list could change, and if this happened 2 years later, it just I don't know. I just think who wants to follow Saban? That's what I am stuck on that. I've been trying to get past it, but I just can't.
Do you do you know the shock and awe when this actually does hit? One of
Yeah.
the stupidest things I saw today was Dabo was in Tuscaloosa. They had a picture of Clemson's private plane. You think
Huh.
Clemson's footing the gas bill for Dabo to come down here and interview?
Dude, nobody is interviewing in Tuscaloosa for this job.
No.
They're not bringing anybody into Tuscaloosa until they're actually signed the dotted line. If they're interviewing anybody, they're meeting at an airport or at some suite at a hotel airport or something like that. They're not doing this in Tuscaloosa. There's no way with all the technology and cameras everywhere you go, you're on camera everywhere. There's no way you could sneak somebody in. Doesn't matter. There's no way.
All right. So here we go, man. Here's my reels. My reel is Lane Kiffin. That's a reel for me. I would have told you if you'd have told me before this was posted yesterday, I would have told you that Dan Lanning he still is. Dan Lanning is the best Alabama pick. And you can't tell me that they are not still pinning him down. Like they are
Oh,
still blowing his phone up because he's the
probably.
pick, man. But I think Lane Kiffin but I'm going to tell you who I think is going to get the call, man. Here's the name. Make sure I'm saying. Let me make sure. I want to see what he makes too. His salary. Here's my pick, man. Kalen DeBoer. I think they look at Washington and they go, Washington they did a lot with a little. You look at some of those players. Some of those players were turned down to come to universities in the SEC. Michael Penix
Hmm.
was told you're not good enough to play at Tennessee when I mean Jeremy Pruitt was there, but we'll let that slide. Um, but there's a lot of names out there. But the biggest thing I will say for these two guys is you got to think to yourself, throw away following Nick Saban. So Caleb DeBoer, so Nick Saban makes 11.4 million. Now,
Hmm.
remember, these are still jobs.
Hmm.
So DeBoer goes from making $4.2 million annually to looking at his wife and going, Bama's gonna pay me eight, nine, 8, 9 million to come and be the coach there. Lane's
Hmm.
making 6, 7. They're gonna pay me. I mean, I think if Lane goes, they gotta get him up there with Dabo and Kirby. He'll get to 10.
Yeah.
And then Sarkisian is still there. Now, Sarkisian is my wild dog type thing.
Hmm.
He's one that I go, I know it's Texas, but it's Alabama. Like, once again, he's one of those guys that he reminds me of Lanning, but it's opposite. He's shown he can make,
Offense.
yeah, he's offense, but he's shown he can get somebody to get the defense right too. So
Hmm.
Sarkisian
Yeah.
is a guy, but then again, Texas has the funding, Texas has everything, and Texas is coming into the SEC, and he has a chance to make a splash with Texas. So that's why he's kind of my wild dog. I think Kalen DeBoer
Yeah.
or Lane Kiffin will be named. Those two. Brent Key, man, that's an interesting one. What? Give me the background on that one.
He's
What's the background
look
on
what
him?
I just think he coached at Bama recently.
Okay,
I mean, he's a Georgia Tech alum. He played offensive line at Georgia Tech. Um, I just know he coached there, and I know he's an up and comer. Like he
right.
look what he did for Tech this year. Talk about doing a lot with a little. You know, he improved their win total from last year by 100%. I think,
And he knows
and
how to go
didn't they?
get.
I mean, I think he's a good recruiter. I mean, he's obviously got to be, and a good game planner, good motivator.
I agree.
I
That's what I
think
was going to
he's
say too. I agree.
I think he's just, that's the kind of guy I think that they're going to go for because I don't know if they're going to, can they afford to pay somebody 8, 9, $10 million a year right now, coming in, or because, they're still going to be paying Saban for a little bit, I'm guessing, and they might have to pay a buyout at the same time, if they're going after one of these bigger names. That's just, that's another reason why I think they're going to go middle of the road right now, somebody like an up and comer, somebody who hasn't quite made a huge name for themselves yet, not somebody, not an established head coach somewhere.
Right. I agree, man. I mean, I that's a new one to my ears, but those are all really, really good. One name, I'm just peeking through to make sure I didn't miss anything. I heard some D'Amico Ryans talk from the Texans as well. I don't know how
Wow.
that much. I don't know how that comes into play. You notice I
Hey, he
haven't heard
played
that.
at Bama.
Right. I agree. I mean, would he come back to? Some people don't like the NFL, man. Some people don't
That's
like the
right. It's not
NFL
for everybody.
because yeah, those coaches. I mean, there's some coaches that want to coach people up. They're not. They feel
Hmm.
like, well, in that part of their lives, like I can't coach people up. I really, it's pros. They're doing this for. I don't want to say they're doing it for a paycheck, but they really are. But
Yeah.
they like the fame and they like the um obviously the fortune. There's millions of
Yeah.
dollars to be,
Millions to be made.
but really, I mean, Adam, and I appreciate those two names, and those will definitely be, but the names that I've not Googled it and said like what are the names and taken Bama Centrals. I saw Bama Central a minute ago,
Huh.
but the names I'm hearing that I heard was that I said that I'm like, now do they line up? The ones that are the most consistent that I've seen. I did a little thing early this morning, and I was like, I'm going to go through some sites and I'm going
Hmm.
to see what names are popping up consistently. And I consistently saw Dan Lanning. I
Yeah.
consistently saw Steve Sarkisian. I consistently saw Lane Kiffin. I consistently saw Kalen DeBoer, and I consistently saw Dabo Sweeney. So
Wow.
I think those are the big. Let's categorize it for you right now. Is those are the big names, and I think
Hmm.
the names that you're talking about are definitely valid points. I also think this will be an Alabama guy hire.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Um,
I think
if
that's
they
what
had to
they
pick
got to
it.
do that.
Now, Kalen DeBoer, I mean, I know that is like what Ted, you just said. Kalen DeBoer is going to be the guy. I think what I mean by that is they want the best coach, but they would prefer if they could put both together. If they could put a Bama culture guy in with the best guy out there that will come to Bama and follow Saban, then
Hmm.
that's what they want. But those people would have to be a Dabo or a Dan Lanning or a as far as or you know a Key or a, but they would have to. But if not, I think that's where the Kalen DeBoer is coming. He did a lot, whole lot
Hmm.
with a little, and he did that consistently
Yeah.
with recruits that were not as talented as Alabama, but
Yeah.
also he didn't play in the SEC. But you can say to yourself, well, he beat Texas. Well, okay, but is he playing a schedule that he's consistently? Washington had some games that were very questionable towards the end of the year. They almost
Yeah.
lost by a couple of games by field goals a couple field goals and a touchdown 2 or 3 times.
To beat
And they
Oregon
had plum.
twice.
Yeah, they beat Oregon twice. I agree.
Dan Lanning.
Yeah, you're right. I like Kalen DeBoer, man. That's why he's in my top two. I got
Yeah.
Kalen DeBoer and Lane Kiffin, man. It
He's
would,
a good
and I
coach.
would be shocked if it was Lane, but I would be shocked if it was Lane, but I would be still shocked if it was. I would be shocked at
Uh, that's
whoever's
a
in there, bro.
journalist's dream. Lane Kiffin taking that job. Journalist's
Right,
dream. Oh my God.
right.
That would be all you heard about for a month.
Oh, it's all you will hear about, bro. Like, I mean, we'll
Hmm.
be going back. We'll be talking about it once it hits. But also, also things, too. You got to. I mean, a lot of talk about Georgia this year, their schedule, and them going to Tuscaloosa, to Texas, down to Austin, and so
In
add some
Oxford.
more, yeah, and Oxford. Add some more news to that. So, man, think about it, and the waves of things that will change with all of this just by him retiring. I mean, if Lane Kiffin takes the job, I mean, man, look at this. So you got Kirby, you got Georgia and Kirby going to Tuscaloosa to play Lane Kiffin instead of Nick Saban, and then you got that going to Oxford to play who and who takes over for Ole Miss. There's so many. I mean, we got our next one, man. So we know exactly once this all hits and they're hired, then waves come because if
Yeah.
it's a Dan Lanning, then it's a who's going to Oregon because now this is the trickle down effect because if Ole Miss loses, Lane Kiffin, then who's in there? It's basically whoever school is left that loses their top guy that has
Hmm.
either a quality assistant or it can go out and throw some money at somebody. Um,
Yeah.
but I will tell you that the only person too that I see that won't rock the coaching world will be Kalen DeBoer because it's like okay, like nobody expects like for Washington to go out there and go okay, we'll get who we want now. No, I think there it's like all right, no, Washington has to go back to the drawing board and find them that
No, if they
that
lose to
name.
Boer, yeah, they're back to square one. I mean,
Right.
nobody's
But
gonna, run up there to take that job. I don't think.
right. But also, then you start talking about well, who takes over at Ole Miss, who takes over at Texas, who takes over at once again. When you looked at your two picks, Eric Bieniemy's leaving an offensive coordinator role for. I mean, he's in limbo, man. I mean, Mark Rivera just got fired at Washington. Where is he going? He is,
Yeah.
and I'll be honest with you, like, is Bieniemy maybe wanting to come to Alabama because he's just burnt out with the NFL? The
Might
NFL will
be.
not give this guy the time of day, man.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's why I think he's on my short list. That was a whoever said that earlier. That's exactly what I was thinking. Whoever said it in the comments.
Yeah, John Sam. Let's post it real quick, and we're
Yeah.
gonna get ready to wrap up. I don't even know who John Sam is, but once again, welcome, man. Welcome to Dogs
Oh
Down
yeah.
South. Talks with Eric
Yes, sir.
Bieniemy have intensified quickly. Saban's close relationship with Eric Bieniemy has led Bama donors to make a significant push for him to receive the nod to replace Saban. That would
Especially if
be.
he is getting an endorsement from the king. I mean, there you go.
He gave him some. What are Nick Saban's things, man? Oatmeal cream pies and
Oatmeal cream pies. Yes, sir.
yeah. Tumor's Corner was rolled yesterday, and
Yeah, that
or
was wild.
wow,
That's
man,
that's that's a rivalry. I love that. That's great.
it's crazy,
That's
man,
great.
crazy, man. Hey, man, we're gonna go live later on, possibly, maybe even. hey man, we'll make it happen. If they name a coach tomorrow, we'll go live. We'll talk about it. I think this will
Yeah,
be a
I'm
weekend
available.
thing. I think next week, this might be a next week thing, maybe a Monday, Tuesday thing. They're not going to wait too long, man. There's a
They
lot of
can't.
things going on, recruiting
There's
going
probably a
on.
lot of recruits right there sitting here in limbo now, wondering if they want to play for the next guy or, do they want to dip because Saban's gone?
Yeah,
They've got to, I think that's why I think they got to move fast. This is going to be something that happens quick. And, whoever they
yeah.
are looking at isn't going to have much time to think about it.
And that's another thing you got to think about is any of these people that we're talking about, are they able to come in right now
Hmm.
and put everything into Alabama? And yes, college football season is over, but like that rules out anybody that's anything that's going on with the NFL right now. That's also an interesting time when Saban said I'm retiring because NFL's finishing up, you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I think that Alabama, I think some parts of ESPN, some parts of some of the other SEC coaches close to Nick Saban, they knew some things about this. I think Alabama may have known some things about this. I told y'all yesterday what gave it away for me was when Kevin Steele said "see you later," because Kevin Steele is an old head. He's a guy that would only be there. He's not going to fight anybody for recognition. He's with Saban, and when he sees, all right, Saban's not coming back, I'm not staying here because whoever they bring in, I mean, then it's like who's out? Like
Yeah.
I don't personally think. I mean, yeah, I think Tommy Reese and Jalen Milroe they found some swagger, I guess per se later on in the year, but I don't know. The staff's going to be ripped apart. Kevin Steele raised his hand and said, "I'll be the first one to be like, I'm out, I'm good."
Hmm.
There's
Yeah.
really no big names on that staff either. I also think when Nick Saban looks like he's not retiring if he still has a Sark calling plays or a Lane Kiffin calling plays and a defensive coordinator like
And
back in the
that's
day
why,
when he had Kirby or Pruitt or any of those
that's
people. Because
why
I
he
do
had
think
to,
Pruitt was,
that's why he had to do his best coaching job this year. That's why it was so hard because he doesn't have the help that he's
yeah,
usually surrounded by. That's hard to sustain, man. He did it for 17 years. That's great. I mean, nobody else, at least until maybe Kirby's done, or whoever is, nobody's going to touch that for a while.
yeah,
That sustained success. That's ridiculous.
yeah, man. I agree,
Like
man.
no class here ever recruited that went like without winning a national championship.
Yeah,
Who can say that?
yeah, yeah, man. And does that change? I mean, what does that change? I mean, we have the portal opening back up, you know, later on, right after spring practices for these people, these guys. That's
Hmm.
another thing, man. I mean, you look at it and it's not. We're already edging towards the middle of January, so we're getting close to February where we'll be, heating up a little bit as far as hitting the weight room hard. Second semester started um, for the University of Georgia. So weight rooms, off season training is going hard, things of that nature. So when you look at it, like it's got to be soon, man. It's definitely got to be soon. But we'll definitely, as quick as we did this tonight, is as quick as we'll go live
Yeah.
after the coach's name and talk about it. And can't wait to just talk more about how I know we said we were going to talk a little bit tonight about. I don't even want to give. I don't know. Let me make sure I can pronounce this guy's name right. We'll give him 5 minutes of the time tonight. But this UNLV quarterback, middle of the night kind of guy. You hear about this fish?
Yeah.
Um,
I
somebody asked
didn't
me
even
about
know.
him.
I didn't even know who he was. I don't know what the big deal was. Is he potentially
So
awesome or something? I mean, did he
so he,
take?
so the big thing is Jaden. So his name is Jaden um, Mayava.
Hmm.
Um, remind me of like but he didn't ever show up like a Jamie Newman type guy. And
Hmm.
so the guy came in, had a really good, really replaced the starting quarterback at UNLV as a freshman. Had a really good year, but once again, we're talking about UNLV here.
Yeah. Who was
Reminds
the
me of a
starter?
little bit, mm, right? Brumfield, I
Nobody
think is his
knows.
name. Doug Brumfield.
Yeah.
Replaced him. Yeah, who's Doug Brumfield, right? But like all of a sudden, like coming to Georgia and then USC. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about the guy, but what is USC? Like, what are they going to be the laughing stock of the Big Ten next year? As far as where they're supposed to go over there and like Lincoln Riley was supposed to own the Pac-12 this year, and they're supposed to go to the Big Ten and just be bro. His team next year is just. I mean, what? Where is all this? Where is all this firepower that he's going to have next year? And that's going to be interesting. I
Yeah.
mean, Lincoln Riley at Alabama. I don't know. I mean, he definitely can't handle it there if he can't handle it
He
in the
is
Pac-12.
not coming to the SEC. He's already run from us once. He's not coming to the SEC.
Yeah.
That's why he went to USC in the first place, I think, from Oklahoma. Because why leave Oklahoma for USC? That's kind of a lateral move. That's not up. It's not down,
Yeah.
definitely. But
Well,
I think it's just kind of a.
I think that
I don't.
Cali money too. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
Oklahoma's got money. I think, right? They should, maybe.
yeah. You ever thought to yourself though that like I just feel like those California teams out there like that West Coast vibe out there is like it just gives you this thing of like it's a swagger type thing, right? It's like a very showy
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Lincoln Riley always came off as a guy to me that was like you really couldn't tell who he was. He just always on the
hmm
sideline looked like I don't know who I'm dealing with. What is like I kind of like what you're saying. Yeah, he's an offensive mind, but what does he do? Like, has anybody said anything special about like what is he known for? Is he the quarterback whisperer? Is he the like what?
No,
So I've heard he's an offensive mind, but I've watched some of these offensive playbooks, and I'm not trying to be funny, but if Georgia next year said we're going to open this thing wide open and we're going to just be like nobody, and we throw for like 700 yards a game or so, nobody's going to come around and say, well, Kirby's the offensive guru. They're not going to say that, you know.
no.
The only reason that Kirby looks like that is because it's been tried and tested that he wins and he
hmm
wins. The culture is great. He has a winning culture,
Yep.
and he's and you can see why they win. I didn't see like I saw an offense this year, but I saw an offense that sputtered terribly with arguably going to be the number one pick in the draft, that quarterback, and you're
Yeah.
supposed to be the offensive guru of college football. You were
Yeah.
scoring 70 points at
No.
Oklahoma, and it's like
No.
that's just me. It's like
I know their
I don't
defense is
know,
bad, but they still lost 5 games on the Pac-12 schedule. And the Pac-12
terrible.
was better this year. It was better this year. The Pac-12 was, undeniably. But
A
still,
lot of
I
expectations,
mean,
and he can
nobody.
take. Go
They're
ahead,
not.
go ahead.
It's the Pac-12. When you lost 5 games, and dude, your defense wasn't that bad, and you had Caleb Williams. You know,
Right,
so
and it
you
ain't like
can't
when
do
he took that
anything with
job, he
that.
couldn't take players with him. Like
That's right.
it was totally different than if I'm like a, go 10 years ago where it's like I'm going to Miami. Well, I can't just go. I'm taking all these players with me, right? He
Yeah,
took so many players with him.
he did.
Anyway,
He definitely did.
interesting
But yeah,
combo, man.
yeah.
Interesting combo. Nick Saban retired at Alabama. What does this mean for college football? We'll see in the next few days. What does it mean for Alabama? What does it mean for recruiting? What does it mean for this 12-team playoff? What does it mean for the coaches we named? I think in closing, Fish had Key from Georgia Tech, and his other name was Eric Bieniemy, who's now I don't know if he's still the offensive coordinator with the Washington Redskins. I don't
Kiffin
know
is a
what
is it? Kiffin's number 3.
Kevin's number 3. Kevin's my
Yeah.
number 2. I got Kalen DeBoer and Lane Kiffin. Let's see if we see one of these 4 names out there. My long shot is Sarkeesian, and your long shot, you thinking your long shot is Kiffin, right?
Yeah.
All right,
Long
man.
shot.
Let's see
Yeah.
how it happens. Well, at the end of the
I
day,
can't wait.
man, at the end of the day, what we don't want to see happen, I don't think we're going to see happen, is we don't want to see Kirby Smart. I don't think Schumann's name is going to be in there. I think we see our staff stay intact. I hope
Kirby's
and pray we
buyout's
do.
ridiculous. Bama can't afford
Yeah.
that. Not right
Buyout's
now.
ridiculous, but I don't think I don't think Kirby's
No.
trying to go. He's at his
No,
alma
he's a
mater.
he's a Georgia boy. Yeah, he's a Georgia boy. He's
Yeah.
he's gonna be there.
All right, man. Fish, any last thoughts, man?
I look forward to the next one because we're going to know a lot more about what's going to happen, you know, what's on the next conversation. So that's my final thought. Can't wait for
I
the
agree,
next one.
man. I agree. We'll know a lot more. We'll know a lot how this is going to make the slide. We'll talk about, no matter who comes in, we'll talk about who they could possibly, because you are going to know that whoever they get is going to have a wide open chance at whoever they want to bring in. Um, just because I will tell you that it did get a little bit weird the last 3 or 4 years because a lot of people ducked that job because they always said it's just hard working for Nick Saban. He
Hmm.
expects a lot out of you, and
Yeah,
so
but
now
look what
you
he
put.
turns you into.
I agree, but
Can't argue with his success.
Lane Kiffin will tell you, man, you don't hear him much. You hear Kirby screaming Nick Saban a lot. I think Kirby has thicker skin than Kiffin, but Kiffin's more of a he's a little more of a prima donna, and so he'll never be able to appreciate what I think Nick could have offered him if he 100% took everything in that he got from him. I
Man,
think he got a little bit butthurt from Nick Saban, and he was just like, you know what? I think I can take my talents elsewhere. I can build a defense around it, and he
yeah.
has. He
But he
has.
can't deny, he can't deny, and I don't care what he says, that Saban rubbed off on him a little bit and turned him into a better coach. There's no way he can deny that.
Saban's done that with a lot of coaches, and a lot
Yep.
of these people we're talking about to replace him are the coaches he did it with.
Yep.
Um, he will be known a long, long time for a few things, and that's how we will. That's how I'll close tonight. Is Saban will be known for great defenses. He'll be known for an incredible coaching tree. He'll be known for one thing I think is really cool that he's known for is a guy that went from college to NFL and found his love in the college aspect of it. I think that's
Yep.
cool because you usually see it in the opposite, or maybe even in the difference might be is they get stuck. The Pete Carroll. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what Pete Carroll does just in general too, because I agree the other night with the comment that Travis King, who follows us on here, said is, could Pete Carroll come back to? I think Pete Carroll will come back to college football. I don't think he will be at Alabama, but Pete Carroll did
So
really well.
so Pete Carroll, head coach, Bill Belichick, defensive coordinator, calling it right now. 9:03, called it.
So right after that happens, like Fanatics opens a deal on like Alabama Walkers, right?
Yeah,
It's crazy, bro. Anyway, man, hey, Fish, man, great hanging out, man. Talking
always.
this stuff. We got some names out there, man. So when we hear it, we will be going live to talk about it. We'll talk about possible names, who's going to follow this person,
Yep.
um, and yeah, man, we'll go from there. So on behalf of Adam Fisher, aka Fish, myself, Ted Turner, another episode of Dogs Down South in the books. You guys have a great evening. Bye now.